Hello, everybody. We are back with our third episode on POSH is Good for employees and organizations, why and how. As you all know, UCS is coming out with these podcasts with the intention and passion to make one and all understand the ABCs of the laws related to sexual harassment of women at workplaces in India. We continue the series with Anupama, the chief trainer at UCS, in conversation with Mayank, an entrepreneur from Mysore in Karnataka. A very warm welcome to you both. It has been an incredible learning in the last two episodes. We were unaware or rather ignorant towards what the POSH Act actually states. And these episodes have been such an eye-opener to so many of our listeners. Without any further delay, shall we start, Mayank and Anupama? Over to you, Mayank. I can sense your enthusiasm to question Anupama.
Thanks, Kaveri. Hi, Anupama. In the last episode, you mentioned that filing false complaints can lead to the complainant losing her job. This was truly informative. Thank you. However, in addition, you tried convincing us that POSH Act is much better than the Vishaka guidelines. And you also certainly brought out that men should be happier with the enactment of an act such as POSH. I still have my doubts as to how and why men must be happy about the enactment of the POSH Act, which focuses mainly on women.
Hi Mayank. Yes, I feel that enactment of the POSH Act has made it a lot easier for men. Surprised as to why I say so? Men have the misconception that POSH Act has made life difficult for them at workplace and that a woman can file complaints only because of this act. This is another myth about the POSH Act that I intend to break in this episode. I agree that POSH Act has definitely educated women more about the sexual harassment at workplace and what they can do in the event they are sexually harassed. It has created a solid platform for them to stand against sexual harassment. However, one must remember that even before the enactment of the POSH Act or even before the formulation of the Vishaka guidelines, nothing stopped a woman from complaining against sexual harassment. In fact, in the absence of POSH Act, the recourse for women was to file a police complaint under section 354 or 509 of the Indian Penal Code, which makes the whole issue a lot more messier for everyone involved. That is the complainant, the person against whom the complaint is filed, and also the organization where the parties are working. And remember, if a case is filed under section 354, it's a cognizable and non-bailable offense. Have you heard the case of Rupan Diol Bajaj versus KPS Gill?
No, Anupama. Can you please tell me more with regard to this case?
Sure, Mayank. The Rupan Diol Bajaj versus KPS Gill case was one of the most publicized, high-profile sexual harassment case in India in those days and remained in the media limelight for many years. Mr. KPS Gill at that time was the Director General of Police, Punjab, and was held guilty of charges of molestation. Mrs. Rupan Diol Bajaj was invited to a party to a house of one of her colleagues. During the party, Mr. KPS Gill went towards Mrs. Bajaj and asked her to come closer and sat on a chair. When she went near him and was just about to sit down, he pulled the chair very close to his chair. Mrs. Bajaj pulled the chair back to its original place. Once again, when she was just about to sit, Mr. Gill pulled the chair closer to his. Mrs. Bajaj felt uncomfortable and walked away towards a group of lady friends. About 10 minutes later, Mr. Gill got up from his seat and stood very close to Mrs. Bajaj, and then with the crook of his finger asked her to stand up. Mrs. Bajaj strongly objected and told him that he was behaving in an obnoxious manner and to go away. However, he stood still and kept commanding her to get up, and he blocked her way in a manner that if she got up, she would literally be touching him. Mrs. Bajaj drew back her chair, then got up and tried to move away from the place. And it is at that point Mr. Gill slapped her on her posterior. After a few days, an FIR was filed by Mrs. Bajaj under sections 341, 342, 352, 354 and 509 of the Indian Penal Code. Do you note the number of provisions under which a person can file an FIR? The case went on for 7 years. And what did it entail for both of them? Appointing lawyers, going to the court on a regular basis, and it became a public case for debate. Mr. KPS Gill was fined 2 lakhs and was put on probation for a period of 3 years. Of course, Mrs. Bajaj did not take the fine and it was finally given for the cause of women. Do you want to know of another case, Mayank? In this case, one Mr. Alfie Chugh, the petitioner, was working as an assistant manager with GNOME Business Solution and was assigned the additional task of imparting training to new recruits by the management of GBS. An FIR was filed against him for alleged sexual harassment by the newly recruited female trainees for outraging their modesty under sections 354 and 509 of IPC. Now, do you note, Mayank, that in both these instances, we have cases being filed under the IPC. The allegations reported in the FIR were that he conversed in a very indecent and rude manner with all of the trainees and told them that if they wanted promotion, they had to compromise with the situation. He used to touch them inappropriately and even made advances. What was worse, he got keys of a room and kept telling them they could go there and enjoy themselves. It was also alleged that he had been discussing about their physical structure and appearance of female trainees and had threatened them that he will throw them out if they talk to anyone in this regard. In this instance also, as I said earlier, a case was filed with the police under section 509 and the entire proceedings went on for years before the court and was open to public debate. Mayank, do note, the reason I quoted these two cases is just to show you that before the POSH Act came into force, in case of a sexual harassment, the only option was a recourse under the Indian Penal Code 1860, which means, or rather it included, multiple visits to the police station, then to the courts, and then maybe for appeals to different courts. I will shortly explain why it is better that men should feel more comfortable with the POSH Act.
Thanks, Anupama. This is really wonderful and something which I really did not give much thought to. As a matter of fact, so many of us are completely ignorant of this. We never thought that the POSH Act is in fact making it less complicated and less tiresome for all of us, including the organizations where we work. We only thought of it as a bane and not as a boon. I now know that if it was not for the POSH Act, how difficult it can get for the parties in the organization if a case is dragged into the police station and then the courts.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time in listening to us. We shall come back to you in a fortnight with our last episode on POSH is good for employees and organizations, why and how. I hope you found this episode very informative. Do get in touch with us with your queries, suggestions and feedback by emailing us at admin@upseedconsulting.com or writing to us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. We would love to hear what you think of our episodes and clear all of your doubts, if any, in our final episode of this series. Wishing you all a great evening. Thank you.